Welcome back, everybody. Semester 2 Listening Experiences. We are going to look at 3 distinct time periods this semester. First, we'll start with 5 weeks of classical music, then move into romantic music, and then 20th and 21st century music we'll finish up with. A quick bit about the characteristics of classical music. You can read this list. I'm not going to read it to you because we all have been through death by PowerPoint. But these are some of the distinct things you will find in classical music. And I have a short video I would like to share with you as well. So now you have a brief overview of the types of conventional compositional techniques that the people of the classical time period used. The first piece of music we are going to study is an opera by Christoph Willibald Gluck. And this particular opera, we've heard a little bit of it before. It's basically the story of Orpheus in the underworld. His setting of this from 1762 it was groundbreaking at the time. One of the conventions that they used, the lead character in this, Orfeo, was played by a castrato. And that is a full-grown man who has the voice and vocal range of a young boy. This is a little shocking, but this was common practice at the time. There was a very specific way that they would get a full-grown man with the voice of a young boy, and it usually happened before the boy's voice changed and dropped. They would cut off his testicles. Therefore, the name castrato. There is actually a recording of the last living castrato. They recorded it in the early 20th century, and he was like 85 years old. So thank goodness that practice died away. Let's just put it that way. There are 3 acts in this opera. Most of it takes place in the underworld. Gluck was known for his establishment of practical reform of the opera in the late 18th century. By that, they mean putting things into a language people could understand, If it was performed in Italy, they would sing in Italian. If it was performed in Germany, they'd sing in German. Use of an orchestra that was the size that would fit in the performing hall. Practical effects with makeup and lighting, things like that, made it more accessible to the common man. The language was originally Italian, as were most grand operas, but they would change it depending on where it was performed. And like I mentioned, most of this opera takes place in the underworld, when Orfeo goes down to hell to try and get, Euridice to come back up with him. The earliest version of this was the Monteverdi version in the year 1600. So this particular storyline, it goes back to antiquity, but it's been set to music for quite a long time. Gluck did not follow in his father's footsteps. The family business that Gluck's father wanted him to go into was forestry. His dad made a living chopping down trees and building houses and such, and Gluck said, no, I'm going to go play the flute and write operas. Pope Benedict XIV bestowed the Knight of the Golden Spur award onto Gluck. So he was Sir Christoph Willibald Gluck. In today's society, that would be like one of the lower ranks of knighthood. And you get a nice parking spot, and they'll waive entry fees for national parks and such. But it's a pretty big deal. And so he was that. The beginning of this opera starts out at Euridice's funeral. She was bitten by a snake and went down into Hades, and he followed her down to try and bring her back. So let's take a look at a recording of the Dance of the Furies. Well, there we have the classical time period. That pretty much follows exactly all of the list of characteristics you can see. Okay, next week we will start looking at the string quartet. Hope you enjoyed that one. We've got more coming up. Bye-bye.